Good morning. Welcome to the Stewards Enquiry on the Winners' Enclosure. Pleased to be joined by Martin Dixon. And Martin, looking back, it was a wonderful weekend of racing, and obviously the curtain came down on the jump season. A new champion jockey, Harry Skelton, and another championship, number 12 for Paul Nicholls.
Yeah, we had a brilliant couple of days racing, didn't we? We thought we were going to when we looked ahead to it Friday, Saturday. I don't think it was a 2 days that disappointed. The writing had been on the wall for a few weeks, hadn't it, that Harry was going to get the job done. I know it was a good battle between them, but the momentum for that last 6 to 8 weeks was really with Harry Skelton. He put his head down. He had loads of ammunition, obviously well supported by Dan Skelton, who's had a terrific season himself. But yeah, as you say, Paul Nicholls ended up champion trainer. Again, he had that sewn up quite a long way out, didn't he? But he did it in style, with the most number of winners that he's ever had in a season, coming clear of Nicky Henderson by over £0.6 million in prize money as well. So he's had a fabulous year, and the consistency has really been there with Paul's horses right the way through the season. He'll have been frustrated that he didn't have a Cheltenham winner for the first time in many years, but he put that right at Aintree, of course, with some really good prospects to look forward to for next season. And yeah, it was a completely dominant year as far as Paul was concerned in Britain.
Yeah, and it was interesting. It was Dan Skelton he put up afterwards as saying he thinks he's his biggest rival for next year. Someone, of course, he knows extremely well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Harry and Dan both started off at Paul Nicholls, didn't they? And it's, I guess, testament to the training that they had there that they're doing so well now themselves. And Dan, the force in that Skelton yard just keeps to be, progressing all of the time. Not only the number of horses and the number of winners that they send out, but also just the quality of horse year in, year out is improving in the Skelton yard. And that's the horse that you need in order to be champion trainer. You need quantity, but you also need real quality.
It's an amazing family setup. I went up there 4 or 5 months ago, and you've got Nick Skelton, who, of course, himself a gold medalist show jumping, and then you've got Harry that lives just sort of not very far with his own gig going on, and then Dan's that's just ever expanding. I mean, it's a phenomenal working family setup, and they're lovely people. It's great to see, and for Harry, incredible. I mean, it was a great result. Hugely popular guy and extremely nice.
Yeah, absolutely, and his dedication comes through every time you hear him speak, doesn't it? The honesty that he speaks with, and they just pretty much get down and do the job day in, day out, day in, day out. It's all about winning, and they achieve that with an enormous amount of success. And I think this season, more than any, has really seen that Skelton bandwagon rolling on and rolling forwards and improving all of the time. So that's something that we're going to see much more of. And I don't think it'll be a first and a last jump jockey title for Harry Skelton by any means, when you consider the force that the Skelton yard has become in recent seasons.
Yeah, Saturday was a good day for Paul Nicholls on many counts, but also for Bryony Frost. And Frodon was just his exceptionally game self once again, wasn't he, winning the Grade 2?
Exactly. I said he would out-jump and outstay Mr. Fisher at Sandown on Saturday. I thought he might do it a little bit easier than he did in the end, but ultimately,
yeah.
I think that's what happened. I certainly think he outstayed him, didn't he? And the determination that Frodon has was all there in that one race, I suppose. And that relationship with Bryony, she got him jumping, which she is so good at. She's a very good judge of pace, isn't she? She gets horses in a good rhythm. That's why most of the horses that Bryony's been associated with over the years have been front-running horses. Frodon, obviously chief amongst them in recent years. He's been the highest achiever of them, and he's been massive for Bryony's career. But she is very good at getting horses into a rhythm, getting them jumping and judging the pace spot on, which is exactly what she did again on Saturday.
Yeah, and she didn't make the running on Grenadine in the celebration chase, a Grade 1, but I do think she gave it a very good ride.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's a horse that has threatened to sort of break through at Grade 1 level for a little while. He won the Holden Gold Cup back in the autumn, and he's still just being an improver. He's got typical Paul Nicholls written all over him, this horse, just gradually working his way up the ranks. It's taken him a little while to become that Grade 1 horse, but on Saturday he was pretty emphatic. There were some disappointments in the race. Obviously put the kettle on the champion chase winner, didn't give her running. So Royal was a little bit below his best as well, but Grenadine still had to see off a revived Altior, who, under an aggressive ride from Nico de Boinville, didn't go down without a fight.
No, it was nice to see him back with a bang, jumping with such enthusiasm, wasn't it? Because, you know, there are plenty that have thought, oh, you know, problem after problem after problem. Is he going to get to the track and disappoint? And he absolutely didn't.
No, he didn't. I think it was the good thing was the enthusiasm that he showed. You know, the headgear maybe helped. He was probably just in a better place than he was when we saw him at Kempton over Christmas, and he didn't quite fire. I think it's fair to say after Saturday that we're not going to see Altior, the brilliant Altior of 3-4 years ago, anymore. It's unlikely that he's quite the same force that he was, but with age, that was always likely to happen anyway. It happens to every horse going, doesn't it? That age catches up with them, and there's a deterioration there to some extent. It's well documented that he's had a few problems over the last couple of seasons, which is why we've not seen him on the track as much, and that is going to take its toll. And the horse that was popping out sort of, you know, mid 170s to 180 performances nearly every time he made the track is not there anymore, but he is still genuinely a grade 1 horse, and he showed that on Saturday. For all that he came, he met with defeat. He did it very gamely indeed. He wouldn't give in once he was headed. He kept on battling away up the hill, and it's just good to see him back. Hopefully we do get to see more of Altior in grade 1 chases over the next couple of seasons, and even if he's not the force that he used to be, it doesn't mean that he's not going to be capable of picking another one up at some point.
What about the flat cards at Sandown on Friday? Because it was of decent quality. We'll start off at the beginning with the Isha Cup, and a little bit of drama here, but Namoose eventually was quite an impressive winner.
He was. There was plenty of drama. Rifleman and Ryan Moore came under a right-hand drive, and whenever he touched him with a stick, he was flinching a little bit and just drifting off to his left, and Ryan gave him one final urge to try and get on terms with Namoose, and he ducked violently out to his left and threw Ryan out the side door. So that robbed the race of what would have been a pretty good finish between Namoose and Rifleman. I think Rifleman himself goes down as clearly a talented, well-handicapped horse, but one with a few quirks, whereas Namoose is the opposite in terms of his attitude. He's very, very straightforward. He jumps out of the stalls quick. He races up with a pace, relaxes, and then he finds for pressure. So he's a real jockey's dream, I guess. Ben Curtis took the ride on Namoose. He struck up a good relationship with him this year. Won both of his handicap starts at Namoose. He did that on Friday off a mark of 98. And I'd expect to see him in at least listed company on his next start. And I think he will be up to winning in that grade as well, Emma.
What about the Gordon Richards Stakes, which was won by Volconic, beating Desert Encounter? A couple of disappointments, weren't there, in behind? How strong do you think this form is going to be?
I'm not going to get carried away with it. I think it's easy to look at Volconic, and yes, first off, he is a progressive horse. He's won both of his starts this season, and you can't take away the pedigree that he's got because he's a half-brother to Voltgeist, who himself, as an older horse, progressed and won the Arc. So all of that is true. It's there, and it's not going to change. But in terms of his actual achievements so far this season, it's not difficult to knock the Pontefract run, and I don't think it's difficult in itself to sort of have some queries hanging over the Gordon Richards on Friday. For all that it took an improved performance again from him, you've mentioned the fact that some other horses were disappointing in the race, those being Thunderous, Highest Ground, probably Hookham to some extent, Extra Elusive ran below his form. So Volconic was taking on some below par rivals, and again, just like at Pontefract on his comeback run, the time was nothing to write home about. And the fact is that when he steps up in class in the heart of the season, when other horses are at 100% and bringing their A game to the table, Volconic is going to have to improve again if he's going to become a Group 1 horse. So I don't think he's there yet. Sometimes you see a horse win a Group 3 and you think if they reproduce that, they'll be well up to winning a Group 1 even now. I don't think that's the case with Volconic. I think he has to keep on going the right way. He might well do, but he's got to do it still.
Okay, and then it was good to see last year St James's Palace winner, Palace Pier, back in good form. I mean, it was an annihilation, which it probably should have been in that field, but it's just nice to see. He's well on track for a very bright season ahead.
He is, and talking of horses that win Group 3s in the manner that would win them a Group 1. I mean, this was a Group 2, admittedly, but it was a lower level race anyway. And Palace Pier won with such authority that actually, I think if he'd have rocked up in a Group 1 and produced that performance that he produced on Friday, he would probably have won it. And by that, I'm saying he looks as good as he did last season. He won 2 Group 1s last year. He was arguably the best miler around in the world last season. He's a seriously talented horse. He's still not got many miles on the clock. And after a slight disappointment in the QE2 at the end of last season, it was really good to see Palace Pier, as I say, look as good as he ever has on Friday. And who knows, we might even see an even better performance from him this season. I think the Lockinge is up next for him at Newbury next month, and he'll take an awful lot of beating there.
Okay, well, what about the Derby picture? Because so far we've had the Epsom Classic Trial. We then had the Sandown Classic Trial on Friday as well. Won by Alenka, a 25-1 shot for William Haggas, beating what looked like a second string for Charlie Appleby. What did you make of this? Have we seen a Derby winner in the lineup, or is that pretty unlikely?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a Derby winner in there, I think it's the runner-up Adayar. We'll talk about Alenka to start with, the winner for Tom Marquand and William Haggas. Tom's first ride back in Britain, of course, and he goes and pops in a Group 3 winner straight away. Gave Alenka a really good ride. He got him out handy from a wide draw. He always had him well positioned. Alenka's still a little bit green in front. He was rolling to his left, then he went to his right a little bit. So he was just idling perhaps a little bit when he was out in front. And it was a likeable effort from him. He's not even in the Derby, Emma, the winner. So I think 1.5 miles might end up stretching him. And I expect maybe the Dante will be next up for him at York in the middle of May, which will be over the same distance, of course, of 1.25 miles. And he would have a chance there. But the runner-up Adayar, I think, would be the horse to follow out of this for the course of the season. He's a great, big, powerful colt. Charlie Appleby trains him. James Doyle rode him on Friday. He's a Frankel colt, and I think he's going to stay extremely well. He came from a little bit off the pace at Sandown, which didn't seem ideal. And all the way to the line, he was just gradually clawing that margin back, gradually clawing the deficit back. And if you'd have given him another 100 yards, I think he would have got to Alenka and really gone on and gone clear of the field on Friday. There's a lot more to come from Adayar over the course of the season.
Yeah, well, I don't think we've seen a Derby winner just yet, but we might have seen a potential Oaks winner yesterday at Wetherby, of all places, because it was an extremely smart performance by Noon Star. And she's bred to win an Oaks. She's by Galileo out of Midday, who, of course, herself was a fabulous mare. And Richard Kingscote afterwards said he described her as sweet and straightforward, great attitude, and she's clearly got an engine. I mean, she's now 12-1 for the Oaks. What did you think?
I think it could well prove to be a very fair price. I think she'll be a big player anyway when it comes to Epsom, or I expect her to be. I've really liked her. Saw last season when she won at Nottingham. Immediately loved her temperament and the way that she went about everything, which when you're talking about horses moving on from minor company to the top table, they have to have that attitude about them, the professionalism about them to be able to do it as 3-year-olds. And I think in Noon Star, we've got a filly who is the real deal in that regard. She seems a very calm-headed filly, and obviously she's got loads of quality about her. She's won 2 of her 3 starts so far. You've got to look at that pedigree as a route for her potential, because she's by Galileo Super Sire. She's out of a multiple Group 1 winner in Midday, who herself was only beaten ahead in the Oaks by Sariska in 2009. So it's a real classic pedigree for Noon Star, and I'm excited to see her again. I don't know whether they'll take in a trial. They might take in an Oaks trial in May, then perhaps go on to Epsom on the back of another trial. They could even just head straight to Epsom. I'm not sure what the plan is, but if she was to go straight to Epsom, although she'd need to improve in Group 1, I think she has that potential to improve into a genuine Group 1 performer through the season.
Yeah, totally agree. It was very likeable. Indeed. If you were to take a performance, a horse to follow from the week and put it up, what would that be?
We've talked about plenty of them. There's a few names to note, the likes of Adayar, Noon Star, of course. But I'll go to Yarmouth on Tuesday for my horse to follow for the next few weeks. And that was a winner of a 10 furlong 3-year-old handicap called Bag Door for Chris Wall and Jack Mitchell. This is a horse that's related to a filly that Chris trained himself called Black Lotus, who progressed right through the handicap ranks into a black type filly in the end. He was winning off a mark of 69. He went through the race very strongly, and to me, he won like a horse that's probably got 15-20 pound in hand of that opening mark of 69. The handicapper will put him up into the mid-70s. I don't for a minute think that'll be catching up with him at all. I expect him to win at least one more handicap, maybe a couple more over the course of the next 2 months.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Thank you very much indeed. We will probably catch up with you later in the week, and enjoy the week's racing and indeed the weather.
Thanks a lot, Emma. Cheers.